Street Fighter Alpha.
The Street Fighter Alpha Trilogy, a prequel set in between the events of the first and second games. It's called Street Fighter Zero in Japan. Wouldn't that technically mean it's a prequel to the original game? Ugh, never mind. Way too confusing. But let's cut straight to the chase, shall we? Street Fighter Alpha takes a lot of inspiration from the Street Fighter 2 animated movie with its anime-esque visuals, which helps fit with the characters' younger appearances. We'll be doing all three in this video, so let's start with the first game. For the first Alpha game, we got returning series mainstays Ryu and Ken, who is rocking very long hair for some reason, whose master has just been murdered, and both seek revenge, while Ryu struggles with the Satsui no Hado, the murderous intent. In a retcon, apparently, Ryu no longer beats Sagat fair and square, he taps into the Satsui no Hado. Chun-li returns from Street Fighter 2, and Adon and Sagat return from Street Fighter 1. But there are characters from the Final Fight series that appear here in a bit of an intercontinuity crossover. Guy and Saddam. That reminds me, I need to play Final Fight someday. Then there's Charlie, Guile's best friend, which means he's obligated to die in every single game he appears in, because how else is Guile supposed to want revenge? And a new character named Rose, who is basically Bison's good half of his soul or something. I don't know, as the next game reveals Bison has so many halves that it's kinda ridiculous. As for the gameplay, well, it plays like Street Fighter. I find the super attacks are more important than ever. It's so satisfying to finish a match with one of them. I was actually able to pull off a counter with Guy. It's a good way to reverse the tables. There's not much to say here. It pretty much sticks to what worked with Street Fighter 2. While Alpha does not do anything new, but it feels more stylish with the way they grade your victories with different insignias. However, what I must really praise Alpha for is the fact that there's no one final boss for all the characters. Rather, each character has their own unique final boss, like Ryu will fight Sagat, Ken will fight Ryu, Chun-Li and Charlie will fight Bison. I actually really like this as a mechanic and wish more fighting games would do something along those lines. It does mean it's hard to get a pattern down, some bosses are really easy, some are really hard, but it's nothing too major. The endings are kinda lackluster in my opinion. They don't really explain much, nor do they bridge the gap in between Street Fighter 1 and 2. It's times like this I miss Mortal Kombat's bios that tell you what happened to a character in between games. But Alpha has secret characters that basically involve mashing a bunch of buttons really quickly. You can get Akuma and M. Bison this way, and Dan. Dan. This guy is basically the joke Street Fighter of the series. Created as a take that to the art of fighting, his entire gimmick is that he sucks. His attacks are barely worth any damage. The entire point of him is that if you win a fight with him, it's to make your opponent look bad. That being said, he actually has something of a story, but there's not much to say about it. Well, that's all I can say about the original Alpha. Let's move on to Street Fighter Alpha 2.
Street Fighter Alpha 2!
Street Fighter Alpha 2 pretty much ignores Alpha 1 as far as story goes, somewhat. Supposedly that's because Capcom considered the original Alpha a disappointment. So Alpha 2 is pretty much a continuation and a rewrite as far as story goes. All the characters from the original Alpha return. We've got returning characters from Street Fighter 2, Dalsim, Zangief, Birdie from Street Fighter 1 is back. We've got new characters like Sakura, the Japanese high school fangirl of Ryu, and Rolento, another character from Final Fight making his Street Fighter debut here. And if I must say anything about him, it's that his victory pose really rubs salt in the wound. There's even an evil Ryu, who in this game is just a skin. He's sort of a what-if Ryu succumbs to the Satsui no Hado. What can I say about Alpha 2? It definitely makes the gameplay much faster, more akin to Street Fighter 2 Turbo. It's all about blocking, timing your combos so that you can unleash a powerful attack. All characters are unique, and there's a certain flavor of strategy to the gameplay. Linking combos into special moves to open up various tactics, it's all here. I can't really say much because I'd just be repeating myself. What Alpha 2 does add is that in addition to each character having their own final boss again, each character has a secret mid-boss that they can fight, provided they do 5 super combo finishers or custom combo finishers, which I wasn't able to trigger very much, but your character basically goes into a super mode. It's there if you want it. The endings are much better this time around. We see how Ryu gets his red headband. He got it from Ken, which was something that was definitely taken from the animated movie. Sagat and Ryu's final battle in Sagat's story mode is pretty much taken from the opening of the animated movie. Bison has a much more bulkier appearance, which is taking inspiration from the animated movie. It's not the only time that a video game series took inspiration from one of its movies. Charlie, of course, dies again. This is apparently the canon event according to Street Fighter V, but that's all there is to say about Alpha 2. Let's move on to the final game in the series, Alpha 3.
Street Fighter Alpha 3!
Now, let me start off by saying the announcer is much more enthusiastic than the last two. Let's compare.
Street Fighter Alpha. Street Fighter Alpha 2! Street Fighter Alpha 3!
Very progressive. Alpha 3 being that this is the final game in the Alpha series, Capcom really pulls out all the stops. Story-wise, it takes place after Alpha 2 with Bison seeking Ryu for a host body. In the console version, which is the version I'm playing off the Alpha Anthology, every character from Street Fighter 2 is back. Guile, Fei Long, Blanca, Cammy have all returned for the first time since Street Fighter 2. Okay, Cammy was in Alpha 2 Gold, but she had no story. Oh, and DJ is back, and he totally jerks off in his win pose. That is definitely what he's doing. New characters include Karen, who is a rival of Sakura. I enjoy her, she's cocky in a good way. Cody, another character from Final Fight who has gone through pretty tough times. Rainbow Mika, a wrestler who looks up to Zangief, and two female dolls of Bison named Julie and Junie. The gameplay is even faster. It's here I realized how technical this game is. Using wake-ups to recover from an attack that knocks you into the air is vital to get your footing back. You have 3 different meters to choose from, but I always choose A meter because it allows you access to your supers. Choosing what level of super you want to attack with helps add to the game's strategy, as you have to decide whether or not you want to use a level 3 super or conserve it. What I really love about Alpha 3 is that it's much more story-driven than previous incarnations. Each character has an opening telling you who they are, and every 5 matches you have a story-driven battle with a specific character. It's a nice way to keep the player interested and invested in what's going on. It expands on the backstories introduced in Street Fighter 2, for example. We see Cammy's past, although the whole Bison being her lover was a mistranslation in between Japanese and American releases. Each character has their own sub-boss as well, just before they fight the final boss, who is almost always Bison in this case. Also, one thing I must point out, Chun-li completely throws her gun away before facing him. Why? You have a gun! Use it! Sometimes he forces you to fight Julie and Junie before him, and they both have their own life bar. It can be a real pain. It reminds me of the 1-on-2 fights in the Mortal Kombat 9 story mode. But if you get past them, you get Final Bison. This guy lives up to his name because he knows your every move and will block all your attacks. What's worse is his Psycho Crusher super attack. If you're caught unaware and he hits you with it, it takes off more than half your health. And if you lose to Bison, that's it. Game over. You don't get a second chance. Nothing is more disheartening than getting really far than having to restart the whole character's arcade all over again just because you died to Bison. I had to keep a second controller plugged in so that I could avoid losing the Bison. Sometimes he does his double knee press, which completely throws you off guard. Normally, I like to complete a fighting game with every character and get every ending, but I started to think that wasn't possible for this game. I didn't know if I would have the patience in me to go all the way with it, but somehow I persevered. The more you fight him, the more you adapt to his fighting patterns. When he does his air dive, that's usually when he's about to do the Psycho Crusher, so block it and you'll save yourself much time and damage. Every time he teleports, he leaves himself open to an attack, so make sure you hit him with something while he's vulnerable. Just stick to the ground and keep mixing up your attacks to throw him off balance. Eventually you'll get the hang of him. Now for the endings. These endings are easily the best in the series. Well deserved after that hell of a final boss. They all follow a similar pattern. Bison is destroyed by something, sometimes by something that makes sense like Ryu's Satsui no Hado, other times it's by getting punched silly by Fei Long or E Honda. Losing to Dan just takes away any dignity Bison has. But damn if it isn't satisfying to watch Bison be destroyed from the inside out. Sacrifices are made and debts are honored. It's a great way to end the Alpha series and bridge the gap between Street Fighter 1 and 2. For that alone, I consider Alpha 3 the best of the Alpha trilogy. I'm glad it's getting online for the Street Fighter Anniversary Collection. A collection that would have really come in handy for this marathon, but that's how it goes sometimes. The Street Fighter Alpha Trilogy is a very important saga in the Street Fighter mythology. I recommend playing all 3 games to see the characters in their younger days. I had a lot of fun playing them. You can get all the games on the Street Fighter Alpha Anthology for the PS2, or just wait for the Street Fighter Collection coming out in May next year. I hope that the Alpha 3 version they use is the one with Guile and all the other characters, but I imagine it will be based on the arcade version, which didn't have them. Well, next time we'll be looking at Street Fighter 3. Hopefully I can get it out before the end of the year. If I don't, I'll see you then. Happy holidays and Happy New Year. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please hit that subscribe button. Talk to you later.